Good morning, everyone. My name is Melanie, and welcome back to A Slice of Heaven Homestead. Today we are stepping back from the home repairs to focus on the homestead. We are going to start building our rabbit cages. Now here are some of the tools that you will need. We have 1/2 inch by 1 inch galvanized cage wire, 1 inch by 1 inch galvanized cage wire, gloves, a grinding tool, iPro of course, a measuring tape, the J-clip crimpers and J-clips, a hammer, pliers, and these will come later. This is just the kind of bungee clip for the door. Now to start off with, let's take a look at the wire that we are going to be using. It has to be galvanized. The galvanized wire, it is resistant to rust, and with animals in a cage, pooping and peeing, you want to make sure to have something that is resistant to rusting. Also, we're going to be using a 16 gauge wire. You can use 16 gauge or 14 gauge. I think 14 gauge is a little bit thicker, but 16 gauge should work for our purpose. Now, as far as the designs go, we are going to be making the cage 2 feet deep. It's going to be 2 feet tall. You can go with 18 inches tall, but we couldn't find 18-inch tall wire, so we are just going to go with what we could find and not have to grind it down, because that's going to be a lot of work. We're also going to make, this is going to be a 2-compartment. Each compartment is going to be 3 feet across. So the dimensions will be 2 feet by 2 feet by 3 feet. So we're going to start by rolling this 1/2 inch by 1 inch out and trying to lay it flat. When you are bending your sides of the cage, you want to have these really long wires. You want those to be towards the inside of the cage. That just helps to reinforce the stability. Right now it's all quite a bendy mess, but it will have a little bit of structural stability here in a bit as we get those J-clips on. Okay, so we have all of our pieces cut out over here, and I wanted to show you guys a quick example of a J-clip. And they come in a giant pack of like hundreds, but they're just this little clip, looks like a J. The crimpers, And it'll squeeze it and hold both of the sides of the cage together. All right, so we have the 4 sides, and it does not want to stay in a normal shape yet. So we're gonna end up putting on the bottom. This will be the bottom, and then hopefully after that it'll be a little bit easier. Okay, we are back. We had to stop our project of putting together this rabbit hutch midway through for a few reasons. One, it's Florida. We got rained out. And by the time the rain was done, it was actually time to go pick up our brand new bunnies. We picked up 2 does. They are New Zealand whites, and they are gonna be some of our breeding stock. So that was excuse number 2. Excuse number 3, well, we found out as we did a little bit more research that the 16 gauge wire that we had for the bottom of the cage was not going to be strong enough to hold their weight and not bow the bottom of the cage. Now normally 16 gauge wire for the bottom of a rabbit cage is perfectly fine, especially if you're going to build a hutch where the cage is going to rest on top, then it should be perfectly fine. But because we plan on hanging our rabbit cages, and because we have some of the biggest breeds of rabbit out there that are going to get very heavy, we had to go with a 14 gauge wire. Now we did have to special order this 14 gauge 1/2 by 1 inch galvanized wire for our cages. Home Depot, Tractor Supply, you know, all those places, they only carried the 16 gauge wire that was in the 1/2 inch and the 1/2 inch by 1 inch. So we did have to special order it. It did take a little bit of time to get here. But now it is here, and now it is time to complete this project. Now remember, this was originally supposed to be the bottom of the cage, so we did a whole lot of J-clips. Now, a lot of people would say we really overdid it, and that's fine. I think most people would probably put this every 2 inches or so. But this is what we felt comfortable with, and J-clips are so cheap that we're okay with it. Now while we were waiting for our flooring to get in, we did go ahead and attach this 2x2 centerpiece with J-clips all around. And we cut out the holes for where the doors are going to be. All right, now that I have these doorways ground down so that they are hopefully not going to be dangerous, we are going to go ahead and attach some of this to the front. This is just some hardware cloth with the 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch holes. Now, the way that we made our cage, this top part is 1 inch by 1 inch, which isn't necessarily going to cause a problem except with newborn kits. They may be able to squirm out of here, and if they do, they could fall to the ground, they could die, they could get strangled, and we want to try and avoid that as much as possible. So like I say, the front part of this cage, that's the only part with 1x1 squares. The rest of it is 1/2 inch by 1 inch, and that's too small for any kid to get out of. So I'm going to be attaching this to the inside because I don't want anything to be able to push their way out either. So. I've already cut out the doors. The holes are 12 inches high and 14 inches across. And normally they would just be 12 by 12, but our girls are going to be so huge because they are New Zealand and a New Zealand Flemish Giant cross. They need a little bit more space. But we also wanted the comfort of, you know, not running into walls when we have to get in here for the kits or for cleaning or anything like that. Okay, so I have cut these doors to be overlapping 1 inch on all sides, and we are going to have them open out like that. Now, we did do another cage where we had the doors open up from the top, and in theory it works pretty well like that until you actually put a giant rabbit in the mix, and then they have to scoot out of the way, or if they don't want to move, you can't get the door open. So that is why we are changing our design and making them open out. Okay, so for the last part of the door, we are attaching our latch. And depending on how these rabbits are, we may end up putting one in one corner and one in the other. If they leave the doors alone, then we'll just leave it as it is. Okay, now for the last part, we are going to end up having kit boxes over here and waterers coming through the back of the cage. So right here we are going to have their feeder, and above that we are going to have a hay chute. My son made these hay feeders out of some of the extra 1x1 mesh that we had. We're going to go ahead and put those right above the feeders right here, but I think I'm going to clip a couple of these things off so that they have an easier time of grabbing the hay through these 1x1 holes. Just make sure that with any of these edges, any of these pokey things that you are not going to grind down, make sure that they are pointed outside of the cage so that they don't hurt those bunnies. And with that, we are done with this double rabbit cage. Guys, thank you for joining me today. Spread a little kindness and encourage one another. If you like this video, please hit that like button and subscribe. And until next time, we hope you find your slice of heaven too.